Qui-Gon Jinn was possibly one of the last few remaining Jedis that had a sense of common sense and defiance towards the Jedi Order, which at this point in time, at his time, the Jedi Order had pretty much rounded out all those who had a defiant personality, such as Lord Reverend, and all that. They tried to, basically, in my opinion, erase them from history so no one could follow their ways of defiance. But Qui-Gon Jinn was possibly the last few at this point, and had he trained Anakin, I'm pretty certain things would have been different. Um, like Obi-Wan was more strict in the Jedi Code, but Qui-Gon Jinn was more defiant towards it. He was considered, in the expanded universe, he was considered a gray Jedi, someone who did not really follow the Force code, the Jedi Code, but instead was kind of crossed between Sith and Jedi. He was in that center area, that gray area, and I thought, yep, that's a true Force user. Like, he was he was a lot of things. Like in the movie, we didn't know who he was because it was more exposition dialogue and all that. But from what we did get from him in the movie, it showed he was more defiant towards the system of the Jedi Order, like his attempt to get Anakin to be his apprentice, despite the fact he already had an apprentice, and they said the code forbids 2 apprentices or more. Which, if they explained if it was because they didn't want to risk favoritism between each, then that would make sense, but they never explain why. So we're just left on a guess. But Qui-Gon Jinn was considered a maverick and an unconventional Jedi Master, and especially being trained by Count Dooku. And we all know how Count Dooku turned out. Rest in peace, Christopher Lee. But anyways, during numerous events, such as the Stark Hyperspace War and the Naboo Crisis, all the way to that point, Qui-Gon Jinn would discover the Chosen One, Anakin Skywalker, and at his extent, he tried to teach the boy. However, was killed by Darth Maul. But before that, the Jedi Council said he's too old. And I'm like, oh my god, you are not making any sense. And then Qui-Gon Jinn steps up saying, I take the boy as my apprentice. And I was like, yay! Someone with common sense! It's beautiful! But seriously, I was rooting for Qui-Gon Jinn. I want to see this guy more, and then he gets killed off. Sucks. I'm probably one of the few people that actually like Qui-Gon Jinn as a character in Star Wars, since, well, The Phantom Menace wasn't universally loved. I blame Jar Jar Binks for that, mostly. But overall, Qui-Gon Jinn was a very talented Jedi. Even Yoda, the Grand Master, the Jedi, the face of the Jedi Order, pretty much admitted in the new canon and in the expanded universe that Qui-Gon was a better master than me. And I was like, okay, that's saying something. So you acknowledge that you are a complete and utter hypocrite, and therefore Qui-Gon Jinn is better than you. Too late. The Jedi Order is dead. The Empire runs the show now, and you're on a swamp planet. You're on Dagobah. You see, if anyone has seen my interpretation of Star Wars series, they'll know what I'm saying. Like I said, the Jedi Order were filled with hypocrisy and corruption. Kind of like the historical Templar Order, it just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and then all of a sudden it started to corrupt itself and fall apart from within. And a lot of people I spoke to agree with me on this. And Qui-Gon Jinn, I'm pretty certain, knew the corruption was spreading, and he tried to save the Order. Heck, he even tried to save Anakin's mother from the Tusken Raiders, but he couldn't do that due to his limitations as a Force Ghost. But Qui-Gon Jinn was described that he could have been on the Jedi Council if he had followed the code, and nope, he was defiant to the end. He would do everything he could to get this way. He said this, rules are sometimes meant to be broken attitude. He always kept saying, Let's see. I'm trying to remember the quote. Man, it's hard to. Oh, now I got it. I break the rules not because it suits me, but sometimes during a mission, the rules get in the way. And I was like, yeah, he's kind of right. Um, and he was controversial in the Jedi Order. Kind of surprising on that, since the Jedi have been known to have controversy, specifically during the Mandalorian Wars crisis. But let's not go there in a later video. But he was considered a gray Jedi by some members of the Others for his frequent oppositions to the Council's demands. And while that term was used for Force users who walked the line between light and dark, Jedi were also labeled as gray Jedi for distancing themselves from the Jedi High Council, which was a practice dated way back in the old days in the Old Republic. But the Qui-Gon Jinn always clashed with the Council. He always was defiant towards it. In fact, Obi-Wan says if you would just follow the code, you would be on the Council. And Qui-Gon Jinn pretty much calmly dismissed that statement and said that sometimes rules are meant to be broken. And he even had a love interest, so that kind of shows, yeah, he was extremely defiant. And he actually cared, cared about life and whatnot, like the weak and the quote, and help the weak. Whereas the Jedi, they say they protect the weak, but they kind of speak in a cold tone that makes it sound like kind of a jerk. Like you look down on them. So I say Qui-Gon Jinn was possibly the last pure Jedi and actually pure Force user we had left at that point at the Rise of the Empire era. So that's really saying something. Like Anakin Skywalker was the most manipulated one, but I'll get to that in another video. But ultimately, Qui-Gon Jinn was considered better than Master Yoda, so that's an accomplishment. Sadly, he said that too late. So, that was my thoughts on Qui-Gon Jinn. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and donate, and stay tuned for more.